finally made it to that day 2 note sheet. So we don't, even though it says day 1 on it, you don't have to do all these all in one day, guys. I mean, like, we're off for 4 weeks. Like, spread it out. Okay, it's fine. So day 2 stuff, we got a little bit more vocab to do, and then we're gonna get into like rock and roll and country and all that kind of stuff. So, need to know rhythm, the flow of music through time, or more specifically, rhythm is the particular arrangement of note lengths in a piece of music. So, does it sound like a definition I would make up? Probably not. Probably got it off of a final exam somewhere. So the flow of music through time, or more specifically, rhythm is the particular arrangement of the note lengths in a piece of music, just like the rhythm of our heartbeat. Okay? So, next one. Tempo. Tempo is the speed of the beat. The speed of the beat. A fast tempo is associated with energy and excitement, and a slow tempo contributes to a solemn or a calm mood. Okay? Fast energy is excitement. Slow tempo is a solemn or calm mood. Next one, a melody. So if everybody's saying Mary had a little lamb, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. All right, so if you sang that with me, which I God hope you did, so I didn't sing it all by myself, it is a series of single tones that add up to a recognizable whole. It makes it that song. Okay, that's what makes Mary Had a Little Lamb, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Those specific notes as you recognize them all together. And then harmony refers to the way chords are constructed and how they follow each other. I know Fifth Harmony broke up, and I think they're like Fourth Harmony now or something like that. But that helps me remember the definition of harmony. Okay, it refers to the way chords are constructed and they fell apart, so they're like deconstructed, I guess. And how they follow each other. And then a chord is a combination of 3 or more tones sounded at once. And usually one of the first things they teach you when you're learning how to play the guitar is how to play a chord. Alright, so now we're going to talk about musical texture. Musical texture is super confusing to me when I first learned about it, but I'm going to find a way to break it down for you. So, it refers to how many different layers of sound are heard at once, what kind of layers they are, and how they are related to each other. And there's 3 types that we're going to talk about: monophonic, polyphonic, and homophonic. Mono in any word means what? 1, right? Poly in any word, like a polygon, means what? 2 or more. And then homo always means the word same. So, monophonic probably has to do with 1. Polyphonic, probably 2 or more. And homophonic has something to do with being same. So let's see if we can figure all this out and make a little bit more sense.
Hello, and welcome to the Listener's Guide. I'm Steve, and as you may have noticed, music has a lot of terms that mean more than one thing, and texture is no exception. The most all-encompassing definition is the combination of melody, harmony, and rhythm of a given piece, but as you may have noticed, there's really not much else to music at all, so we're kind of just saying the everything. So let's look at some examples. In Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the rhythm is very fast, and the melody and harmony move around quietly but have sudden outbursts. This busy texture gives off an anxious energy, like a caged animal trying to fend off its attackers. In contrast, Grieg's Morning Mood is very broad and open, meaning that if you tried to play it on the piano, you would really have to stretch your fingers. That, combined with a slow, quiet melody, gives the texture the sense of a very open landscape just waking up for the day. Because the definition of texture is clearly so wishy-washy, it's usually not included without some kind of modifier, and there are a few technical modifiers you'll see frequently. For instance, if we say something has a monophonic texture, we're talking about something with a single melody and nothing else, like Gregorian chant. In this case, the melody is like a string. You can see the shape, but that's it. It's a little one-dimensional. We could add some accompaniment though, say by adding a band behind the lead singer. This is the texture you're probably the most familiar with because it has been the most popular texture in music since it was applied to the first operas in the early 1600s, though there's no telling how far back it actually goes. If monophonic texture is a string, this texture, called homophonic, is a sheet. We still have the shape of the string providing the structure, and the melody is independent enough that you can sing it on its own without your audience batting an eye, but it feels filled out by the rest of the fabric underneath it. However, in the Western tradition, there's another texture that goes further back that works entirely differently. If you tried to pick a melody out of Renaissance church music, you would probably have some trouble choosing which one to sing. That's because it's what we call polyphonic. If monophony is a string, then polyphony is more like a braid. Each part is equally important, and the experience comes from hearing them interplay as they respond to each other and trade off moments of prominence. But when we're dealing with classical music of the 17th century through modern times, it's not always so clear-cut. Most pieces you hear will have a mix of all of the textures, and in the way that a cable-knit scarf is kind of a piece of fabric, but also kind of a braid, you can interpret any given moment in a number of ways. Take the finale of Beethoven's Third Symphony, for instance. It's kind of generally a theme in variations, like we discussed in the video on binary form, and it starts off presenting the main theme monophonically with pizzicato strings. The first variation, however, is much more polyphonic with an interesting call and response between the low and high strings. By the time we get to the fourth variation, we have homophony, with the melody in the oboe and the rest of the orchestra just accompanying it. So as you can see, musical texture as a concept is both simple and complicated, but it will play a more and more important role as we learn about other forms throughout musical history. If you want to hear more about polyphony and a long-standing legend of the composer who saved it in the Catholic Church, make sure to support us on Patreon to catch the bonus video coming out in the next few days. And if you want to catch more of us here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe.
Alright, so it kind of helps my very visual learning brain kind of wrap it around this musical texture thing. So, monophonic, as we said, means one. So it is a single melodic line without any accompaniment. If I sing alone or you sing alone and you're making monophonic music, if you're singing in unison with somebody else and y'all are singing the same thing at the same pitch, okay, that's all monophonic in texture. So even though the choir is singing, there's lots of different voices, they're all singing the same thing at the same time. So they were all singing in unison, so that was monophonic, as opposed to polyphonic. So in polyphonic, you have a simultaneous performance of two or more melodic lines, adding dimension to the sound. So jazz musicians do this a lot. They improvise, and someone will be playing one melody and someone will be playing another melody at the same time, or singing around. Like, did you ever have to sing like row, row, row your boat, and say like, I'll start, row, row your boat, and then you start, and then you end up singing different parts at the same time? Well, that is also polyphonic in texture. And my most favorite example of this is during Big Bang, when Penny got sick and she asked Sheldon to sing Soft Kitty with her, but they sang it in a round.
Sing Soft Kitty to me.
Soft Kitty is for when you're sick. You're not sick.
Injured and drugged is a kind of sick.
Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur.
Wait. Let's sing it as a round. I'll start. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. So that's where you come in. I'll start over. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. I've got all night, Sheldon. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little
Soft
ball
kitty,
of
warm
fur.
kitty,
Happy
little ball of
kitty,
fur.
sleepy kitty,
Happy kitty, sleepy kitty.
Alright, so they sang two melodic lines at the exact same time. That was polyphonic. Now, homophonic. One main melody accompanied by chords. The attention's focused on the melody and supported by colored and subordinate sounds. So, like when a folk singer like Taylor Swift, when she first started out and she sang a lot just with the guitar, accompanies himself on a guitar. One of my favorite examples of this type of texture is this little song by Green Day. You probably heard it before.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this task and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Alright, love that one. Alright, a little more vocab to know. So performer versus composer. It's the job of the performer to bring to life the printed notes assembled by the composer who wrote the music. And if you're a super duper performer, you are dubbed a virtuoso. So you're an artist of extraordinary technical mastery. So, conductor leads a group of musicians, represents authority. So, many carry a small stick called a baton, not a baton, okay, it's a baton, to indicate tempo. Then there's this thing called the concert master. So, this is the principal first violinist. So, he plays or she plays the violin. They sit at the conductor's immediate left and they supervise the tuning of the orchestra before the performance. And one of my most favorite examples of a conductor is the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he plays the conductor. You know, you never mess with Bugs Bunny because Bugs Bunny is always going to win.
Leopold,